Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jimmy Rex Show. Today on the podcast, I sit down with one of the top motivational speakers on the planet, one of the top keynote speakers on the planet right now, James Dixon. He is also the CEO of Absolute Motivation with 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. And his story is just one that needs to be told. I love this man. I love what he stands for. I love the way that he is preaching and talking to youth, especially those from his same background and experience in life. And I will not give that away here in the intro, but wanted to kind of let you know that this is a guy who I wanted to put him on my platform because I just believe in what he's saying. I believe in his message. He really is a real life Superman. And he talks about his journey, how he had to have his leg amputated as a child, and how that played a role in his life. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast with James Dixon. This week's episode is brought to you by Bucked Up Supplements. I don't know if you guys have tried their new lightly carbonated protein drink, but I was at Harmon's the other day and I saw this, and so I drank one, and I just said to myself, oh my gosh, this is going to be a staple in my diet every single day. Less than 100 calories with 25 grams of protein. It's like an energy drink for breakfast without the caffeine, and it's a game changer. It's a game changer if you're trying to get into shape for the summer or just, make a difference in your overall health. But this is a great way to start your day with some protein. They taste amazing. There's 4 different flavors. The banana pineapple is my personal favorite. But check these out. You can go and you can buy them on buckedup.com or at your local grocery store. So again, this episode brought to you by Bucked Up Protein. Go check it out. Dude, how did you end up in Utah, by the way?
Man, listen, I got invited to come speak. And when I got here, I'd never been to Utah. In fact, I had never seen mountains in my life.
Oh, wow.
I had been limited to the idea of my hood, I represent my city, all that type of thing, not realizing I was called to the world. But I get out to Utah, man, I'm like, this is clean, man. This is beautiful. And when I came to the speaking engagement, when I walk in, the guys are like, Thurl Bailey. And I was like, no, I'm not Thurl.
But the first black guy that's
And so they were like, I love when you sing. And I was like, I don't sing, man.
You don't even look like Thurl Bailey.
But to that
guy, that's hilarious.
So that's how I got started here. And then after I brought my family out and I brought my kids out, and I got to thinking about, man, it's safe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what I need. So without question, I just made that transition, man.
I love it. So where did you grow up at? Because you have one of the biggest YouTube pages for motivation. You got over 1.5 million followers. You really one of the main people that I think people look to for inspiration and motivation. And but I would love, I think for my audience, I'd love for you to kind of go backwards and kind of talk about coming into your journey and kind of how you got to this place.
Let's do that. 3 years ago, Jimmy, I would have just been listening to you on podcasts for inspiration while I worked in a factory. My overall concept, my identity was about working at General Motors, 3rd generation. I was a legacy kid. I mean, I got my job because my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother all worked there, and they referred me. And so the idea was, because of your name, you got in. And so I was like, 30 years, and then I'll retire. But look at the way that God orders our steps, man. I began to share my story of embarrassment about growing up without a leg and disabled and how I was seen and how I wanted to cover that thing up. And the moment I began to open up about it, 10 years ago, actually, it was November 14th of 2014, I opened up about it. And I made a video, and I happened to do it in the church parking lot. And I was opening up, and I was like, I've got to let a fear of mine go. I've been afraid to admit that I'm a disabled person. I've been afraid to say that I've lost a leg. I've been afraid because I've always been labeled as crippled. And even after the people who had long quit branding me had stopped, I couldn't remove the brand from me. And I struggled with that. Whether I'd be loved, accepted by women, I'd be accepted by other men, or I was limited in some way or whatever. And so, man, that day I took my leg off in a video and I hopped across this basketball court that's in a church parking lot. And I was like, man, you can still reach your goals with or without a limb. And that was just for a prosthetic wearing audience. Mm-hmm. The video I posted up on Instagram, and Facebook at the time, and it was called Absolute Motivation. I wake up and the next morning it's got 60,000 shares to it. First time I ever got anything, and people were like, man, we want to have you come speak at our place, man, the thing you talked about. Next thing I know, man, I'm constantly speaking, and then I'm speaking at VA hospitals, sharing with those guys who lost limbs.
Oh, yeah.
And that literally became my career then. I got one speaking engagement, it led to another. And
so you'd never done speaking before that?
No, I never did it as a motivational, inspirational. I had only been a church servant, speaking on when asked to, or speak to the youth type of thing. I've always been passionate, but I didn't have an understanding of what's my purpose, right? What did I go through to turn into?
Well, that's, isn't that the beauty of life, right? The thing, our biggest struggle is our biggest triumph. Like, and usually every good thing in our life has its own shadow to it too.
Oh,
so
man,
it's like,
come on, yeah.
That's just the way it all balances itself out. But, growing up without a leg, and I mean, how that affects a human being, unless you've gone through that experience, you would never even know. But all the things that you probably then learned because of that experience, I'm guessing you've been able to inspire and motivate so many people that you wouldn't have ever had those lessons to give had you, just had both legs.
Brother Jimmy, let me tell you, man, for me, I struggle with a lot of things, man, right? And I used to ask God, like, why? Why would you put me through this? When I was born, man, my mom is 18, dad's 18, and they didn't know what to do with a child with disabilities. First surgery I had, I was 3 months of age.
Wow.
And then I had one every 6 months until I was 11. I never knew what it was like to play outside with other kids. I never got a chance to do anything. I was known as the crippled kid on the porch. And my grandmother was the only playmate I had. And she took care of me. And so when I was 11, they took my leg, and I didn't know that was going to happen. You
didn't know when you went in for the... Oh,
Not at all.
Did they know?
So here's the conversation. A neighbor across the street says, he's a last white guy lives in our neighborhood.
Where was this at, by the way?
This is Anderson, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And a guy comes across the street, and he said, I'm a Shriner. And I don't know if you know anything about what we do, but we help kids. And I always see the little boy on the porch, and I wondered what's wrong with him. Grandma said, well, he got a problem with his leg, and they can't figure it out. We tried everything, and he's always got surgeries going on. They said, well, we would like to do it for free if he'll come to Chicago. The only challenge is my grandmother, even though I lived with her, wasn't my guardian. So my mom and dad had to step back in and then give permission for me to go to Chicago. This is going to be a routine visit, I thought. Anyway, brother, when I get to the hospital, they say, what do you think if we amputate? And I said, no. Because sometimes our greatest fear is about losing something, even if it no longer serves us.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. And the idea that you would take that from me, when all of my life has been about lack. My whole life has been about isolationism and all that stuff. And the idea that you would take it from me, I said, no. I'm in a room. Mom and dad dropped me off. And since I didn't live with them, it wasn't a bad thing for them to leave. But grandma always showed up. But my grandmother, she wasn't literate.
Oh, no.
And so there's a challenge. How does she get from Indiana to Chicago for me? Well, I'm sitting there in the hospital, brother, and I've got 2 roommates. And this is kids that I can play with for the first time. So there's a kid named Gilbert. He's paralyzed from the neck down. And on the other side of me is a kid named Matt. And Matt's got severe deformities. He's only 8, but man, he's intelligent. But his mom and dad are always with him. Just the opposite of myself and Gilbert. When we were sitting there, I remember watching the dad and mom just love on that kid. He goes in for surgery, and then they came back, and they start handing us his teddy bears. And I was like, where's Matt? And his dad said, Matt went home. And at the time, I was like, well, he didn't come in and say goodbye to me. And they were like, he went home with the Lord. And that was the first time that I realized that a kid dies, or that somebody close to me would. Then, maybe a few days later, Gilbert is all excited because his mom's coming to visit him. And when she comes in, she looks at him and she gets a report from them saying he's paralyzed from the neck down from falling at Cabrini Green Apartments. And his mama said, baby, I can't take care of that. You see, all my life I've been had to do stuff, take care of stuff, and it's too hard already as is. I'm too young to have to take care of somebody like you. So I'm leaving. I'm going to give you to these people. And I can remember watching him in the bed beside me beg her. It's the first time I ever heard a kid beg for mercy. He's like, Mama, please, I won't be bad no more. I won't do anything. Just don't leave me. And she turned, and her last statement to him was, don't make this hard on me. She turned and walked away, and so I'm thinking, either you die or you get abandoned in here. The next morning, I wake up without them telling me that they had taken my leg. I just felt what's called phantoms. And I had this severe cramp in my leg, and I wake up, and I pull the cover back, and it's bloody, and there's no leg there. And so I'm angry that they took it because they had asked me, do you want to give it up? And I said no. And now the leg is gone. No parent is there. No grandma. Matt is dead. And Gilbert has become nonverbal. For me, that was the struggle.
Damn, that's a lot of trauma for a little kid.
Yeah. Because I was like, well, my dad had promised he would come back. He didn't. I didn't know if my mom would come. And if mom comes, would she say to me what was said to Gilbert? And so I was angry. Doc comes in and he says, how are you? And I waited till he got closer and I tried to swing my pillow at him. I'm just 11, but I'm angry because you took something from me. Anyway, they go ahead and they strap me down. A day later, my mom comes in and she's immediately angry. And she was like, what is this? I heard you were disrespectful towards adults. That's her first statement.
Oh, no. So you're thinking this thing with Gilbert is coming.
That's it. So I'm sitting there, man, and my mom, she's adamant about it. She's like, you don't ever disrespect adults. You hear me? I said, yes, ma'am. And all I could think of is, please, don't leave me. There's a nurse that had come in and encouraged me in between the visit of my mom and the doctor incident. And the nurse was like, James, one day you're going to run. You're going to play basketball. You're going to do all the things you dreamed of. And she encouraged me, had me really believing these things. My mom walks in, angry, and I turned towards the nurse that was there and said, tell her what you told me. Tell my mom that I'm going to walk one day. Tell her I'm going to run. I'm going to play sports. I'm going to do everything that every other kid would do. Tell her that. And my mom stops me and says, you are a cripple. You understand that? You'll never do that. You ain't ever done anything like that. And that's kind of a word that I have for all men and all women listening, right? There are people who would judge you on your resume because you haven't done something. The same word resume is the same letters used in resume. Whatever God's plan for you, you can resume. You can pick that up and go. You don't have to go have it on your resume in order for you to do it. I had never walked, I'd never run, but it doesn't mean I can't do those things. But if I believe Mom, yeah, you're right. Jimmy, the hardest moment I had in life, for me, wasn't losing the leg because I had the phantoms. That hurt, right? But when my mom stopped me from telling her what I could do, she got upset that I would listen to some random white woman than her. And I said, Mom, she says, though, she's seen a lot of kids like me. And one day, I'm going to do some stuff. And my mom said, you gonna believe her? She ain't seen that what you can't do. She ain't been there. You understand me? I was like, yes, ma'am. And then she slapped me and said, now tell me you understand you're a cripple. And she goes to slap me again, and I broke down, and I said, Mom, I am a cripple. And she said, you understand that? That's all you ever be. I said, yes, ma'am. I'm a cripple, and I'll never be more, and I won't say it again. And she was like, good. Because that's all you are. And my fear was that she would never come back. The nurse was so kind to me. After my mom left that room, she asked for my grandmother's phone number and called her. My grandmother, without the ability to read or write, found a Greyhound bus station and found her way to me. I heard her voice in the hallway, and she said, where's my baby? She walks into the room, man, and hope came back in. And she told me, you're not crippled. You're still Superman. You just got to deal with your kryptonite. Now get up. If that woman doesn't come in, I'm not before you now.
Mm-hmm.
But I see something in you. I watched your documentary. I watched how you interact with men. And like my grandmother, you walk in a lot of men's lives and you speak and you become something for them, but that draws a lot out of you.
Mm.
And I watched that, man, and people don't realize, man, the sacrifice it takes to be that for everyone else. We are the they that don't show up for other people. The they that will show up when other people need you. And so I admire and respect what you do because it transforms men. And it doesn't just transform a man, it transforms a bloodline.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you said that well. You know, it's such a gift to be able to do it, but it is, you know, it does take a lot of effort to do it. I was talking to Garrett White recently. He's coached over 60,000 men. He's been doing this for 13 years. And it was funny because talking to him, it was like he understood just how this role how it works. And you have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and that you're doing those other things, because as much as it's so rewarding to do, it does take a lot out of you. And it's, you know, it's, if not us, then who, right? Like we have to be willing to do this. And, but it's the reward of that is every single day I see how it affects men's lives and how it can help them and changes them in these beautiful ways. And so, you know, it's such a beautiful story that you just shared, you know, with your grandma, and that, you know, I appreciate you saying those kind words, because I can't think of a better thing to be than a source of hope for another human, right?
Man,
a source of, like, to give people that. I mean, and bless your mom, that was her wiring, right? She couldn't help herself.
And
she
she
didn't know
thought,
any different.
I'm giving you reality. And if you look at someone based off of their past and judge them solely on that, yeah, I had never done those things. If you hadn't walked before, what makes you think you're going to do it now? There's less of you now than there was before. But sometimes loss is what creates the gain. If I don't lose the leg, they don't come up with prosthetic for me. And I don't end up standing. I don't end up walking. And, man, I'm going to show you something. This is my prosthetic. This is my everything, man. It's my ability to stand. It's my ability to walk. It is my vulnerability, but it is also my superpower. On it, man, I have Philippians 4:13. It says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That wasn't my life verse. It was hers. And she was like, every time she would give me a shoe, she would have that written on it to remind me, you can still do it. And the Superman that's on it, man, is not about the cartoon. It is a reminder that I'm supposed to be that thing you just mentioned, a symbol of hope. But I can't do it alone. That's why it has to be more than me. It's you. It's everyone that is listening.
And I think that is your superpower, is uniting people, right? I think, I mean, every single time I talk to you, you're either hanging out with Ray Lewis or you name it. I mean, I met you, you know, at a charity events where you're serving and giving back to other people. And I think one of the cool things about what you've done is again, you've been able to use that superpower to unite other people to create bigger change in the world.
Well, brother, I appreciate you even saying that, but let me tell you this: when it comes to that, I have a debt, right? My grandmother would always say to me, "Don't waste my breath," and what she meant by that is like, "Baby, I don't have many of them left, and whatever I got, I'm pouring into you. you owe me. And after she would go back with the you owe me thing with it, it was always the idea that if I pour my life into you, you got to go out and become somebody. You have to go do some things. And when my grandmother passed away, that was the only love I had, man. My father wasn't there and all that stuff. So when she died, I was angry with God because I was like, man, I asked you for one thing. Don't take her from me. She's the only one to ever tell me I love you, and she's gone. Now who do I have? You see, but I didn't understand at the time, man, that she had invested something deeper than just time in me. She had molded me so that I would be, from the time that she struggled with reading, I used to be her reader. And she would tell me life stories or share things with me, which helped me become a storyteller. Every gift that I had was being practiced and honed in on so that when I did stand on stage the first time, I just stood authentically and spoke from the heart, but I was speaking with 40 years of experience now. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the world starts responding, and I'm like, it is not because I am gifted. It is because you and I have paid a price. Much is given, much is required, but most people want that crown without knowing how heavy it is.
Yeah, and if you try to get it too quickly, it'll weigh you down, right?
Doc, man, because it forces you to be somebody you're not. You ever, when we talk about people being different on stage, off stage, backstage, it's because they become a persona. And the thing about acting, man, is you never know when they get tired of that act. Mr. T was not his name, but it's all we know is the character, and he's stuck in it. But if you can show up as authentically you, if you can just be Jimmy Rex, that never gets old. And that, because they watch and they allow you to evolve and grow. Because you're not the same as when you started, but you are not what you will be. You're constantly growing and evolving. But your growth allows for the growth of all those that follow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like the way that you frame that. We've talked a little bit about kind of some things that you've been wanting to do some stuff for the Black community and try how to involve, how to get the men being more involved in the lives of their families and some of that kind of stuff. Talk to me a little bit. Where does somebody that's listening to this right now, they're inspired, they want to do something. How does one begin to develop the course of where they're supposed to go with their time and attention and how they can most serve other people, how they can honor their grandma in their life?
Wow, man, I'm loving where you kind of set me up on the tee for that one. And I'll just say that I used to be motivated by the idea that I didn't want to be like my dad. So I was going to be better than that. But if that's your bar, you're not lifting enough. It has to be the idea that I am a father to an inner city. I'm a father to a city, a state, a nation. I have to be an example. I don't dress up for fashion. I dress up because I need young Black men to see an example. I never represent just myself. When I go in, I'm trying to be my best self, authentically me, but impact them. And I think that the only way I can go back and change anything or be a father to more than my kids is by making myself vulnerable and available, by going back and speaking. So that's why I'm always going back to urban areas. I go to churches. I bring business owners in. I draw the men in and help them become entrepreneurs, because the truth is the gap between us is not racial, it's knowledge. And if I can see something, I can become that. But if you've never seen a father, except for James Evans on Good Times, which was the first televised father, and if you had Cosby and then you saw that erode, then the father becomes whoever the hottest artist is. And if that's the male example, then we're right now in the 60s, Black community led in fathers in the homes.
I know, and they were the most powerful community out there.
And that's why there was that fight, that warrior within that had, where they stood with signs during civil rights that says, I am a man. It wasn't just the declaration of a gender, man. It was that I am to be respected, and I am the defender, protector of my community. And so you ask, how do I go back and change? I had to change. And I had to take it that And every one of the juvenile detention centers I go to, I have to be a father to those guys.
Well, yeah, because the things that media props up are the opposite of what they should be aspiring to, right?
Yeah.
So I love your idea of like, no, I'm going to show them a model of what it looks like to be a very powerful, wealthy, healthy, masculine man in this community.
That is why I got to tell you something that's odd too. I struggled with leaving my inner city. You asked me about moving to Utah. 2 days before I decided to move to Utah, I had a life-changing experience. I went to go to McDonald's before midnight to grab me a fish fillet. It was what was available, Jimmy. And
you were hungry.
I was hungry, brother. I had to get it. And I knew after midnight you can't get the fish fillet. So I get there, and there's a kid blocking the drive-thru. Now it's 11:49, and I wait a minute. And then finally, I'm like, man, I'm going to miss this window because if it's 12:01, they quit, right? So I blow my horn. In some areas of our country, blowing the horn is seen as a sign of disrespect.
Right.
And so the kid pops out of his car. And now him and about 5 others jump out. Well, the way I'm built and lined up, man, I'm not going to back down, right?
You're a pretty big dude.
Yeah, well, I'm welcoming whatever they got to say, until the kid pulls a gun on me. Now he's got a gun pointed at my head. And I realized what it was. He was being initiated.
Oh, no.
You see, all he was looking for
was a fight.
And I had just prevented him from being able to get out of one. Because there are women there who are watching and there are guys who are watching. He's got to shoot me. And as he goes to raise his gun to my head, I said, I want you to know my name. He said, F your name. And I said, my name is James Dixon. He said, I don't give a care, man. And he goes to raise it, and I can tell this is it. And I was thinking, man, this is my city. I've come back here to try to change it. I've stayed here, and I'm about to die at a McDonald's, And so I end up saying to him, it's like, you look familiar. And he says, shut up. And I can tell he's nervous about killing me, but he needs me to stop talking so he can get the nerve. And I was like, man, you look like a kid I grew up with. His name was Duran. And the kid paused, and he said, that's my dad. And I said, man, you know that I've ridden to try to get your dad out of prison. And he said, and that's what saved your life. And he jumps in the car, takes off. I call the policemen. They come. They said they're going to go try to find the kid. I didn't know his name, but I knew. But I heard a pop, pop as they drove off. They killed someone else.
Wow.
See, his initiation was going to happen anyway. And that's when I was like, nah, I got to get out of here for my family's sake. And then the moment I left, they did a parade in my honor back in my home city. And then I saw that, wait a minute, they wondered the same question of other people. If life is so good outside of the hood, then why are you still here? If life can be better, why are you here? Because they don't think if you really evolved, you really became someone, why are you here? Why haven't you made it? And so the moment you make it, the thing you have to do is go back and point the way out. Like, man, yes, I came up and I'm the right person at the right time there because you can't say I did it physically. I didn't do it through entertainment. I didn't do it because I had a special skill. I had lack. And it wasn't because I was black. And more that I go back and I try to pour. So if you ask, I need Jimmy Rexes to come into my world. I need them to get beyond race. I need us to have interactions where they see us together, where they see you step in and you speak life into my son. Because sometimes my words can fall on deaf ears.
I feel like there's so many people that's what they want. Like that's, I don't think, like I know with my circles, and there's some very successful men there, nobody sees race. Like we just don't. And so if there was, I feel like race is being kept alive by the people that benefit from it being kept alive. Like,
oh man, come on.
Racism,
man.
you know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole topic we could get into, but so like, because I think people in general, the majority of people, and again, if you've grown up in the South and maybe you've had some of these interactions, maybe it was a white guy at that McDonald's and he gets shot in his family, then now they forever are going to obviously have something against black people, or vice versa, right? It happens all over the place, happens all the time. And so I'm not saying racism isn't a real thing, but I think the majority of people are kind of asking that question, wait, why can't we all just move past this? It feels like in the 90s the early 90s. It feels like in the 80s we were getting there.
But we let politics kick in,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And they will use that every time.
Yeah, and you talked about this, like if you go and study the black culture in the 50s and, earlier on in the United States in 50s and 60s, it was so family oriented and they were thriving and they were doing well, even though they had to fight segregation and some of these other issues.
But it unified us, man. It gave us passion, and men with passion step into the arena, right? If you have something to fight for, you man up for it.
Yeah.
And it
unites you around it, right?
It does, man. It's like, man, we got to be there for our families. I got to be there. I'm a man.
So how do you get that spirit back?
Man, the only way that we get back to that is that, man, we have to be challenged for it. There is something about acquiescing and thinking, somebody else has got to do it.
Well, and I think that's where, this is my own conspiracy theory, but I think there's one political party that gets 85% of the black vote that benefits from them staying poor and staying down and thinking they need to rely on the government to help them.
Yeah. Man, but listen how they come at us, and most people don't even realize this. So blacks are traditionally Republican. We were from inception.
Yeah, they were the ones that freed the slaves.
That's right. And so Harriet Tubman, Republican. But they don't teach you that. Malcolm X, Republican. Martin Luther King voted Republican. The only reason he shifted us, and this is where our divide comes, is because Kennedy was coming up and said, I would help with the civil rights thing. And so he shifts us for that one individual. But both of them die, and we never get a voice again. They gave us a voice. From then on, it was, think about this, Jesse Jackson. They ran him.
The ultimate victim baiter.
That's it. But this is how they could use him, though. The tie to the King first relationship, though it had been severed, general knowledge isn't known about that. And so they take that and they go, man, look, use him. And they played a long game. Reagan comes up. Things are going great. But no one's watching the game that the Democrats are playing. And so they begin to tell young ladies, you want a house, don't you? Yeah. You can have one, you just can't have a man. But you don't need a man. And you're like, wait a minute. Man, I don't know where feminism, how it works, but it shouldn't work in a black community. Because in our community...
That's the biggest lie ever told to women. It is. Man, it's destroyed them.
But everyone respects their mom.
The combination of those things,
You see an athlete make it, black athlete never like, forget women. No, they like, man, I want to thank my mom and buy my mom. We revere our moms. Look how I talk about my grandmother. Like, so there's no place where they sell us things and then they tell you, you know what, don't complicate your life. Get rid of the babies, right? They say get rid of them. Well, let's say if we only do it because if they're disabled, then there's no me, right? But then 20 million of us have been taken off of Earth before a chance could be made for us. And so if you wonder where are our great leaders, not athletes, I mean leaders, we may have murdered 20 million of them. And there are people who told us that when Margaret Sanger came up with this concept, that it was racism, she wanted to kill us off. And yet we revere and respect and have allowed that, and we made her dream come true. But that Martin Luther King dream, where he was like, I have a dream, we've ignored that. They stole it without listening to the words. He said the content of character. And all we do is go off of that color thing. And so how do we get back to it? Man, I got to awaken the warrior in men. I've got to get back to pushing mental health, mindset, spiritual health.
100%.
Yeah, and accountability to one another so that it is not that thing where we challenge each other like, you stared at me too long, what's up? You know, it's I look at you and I'm like, what's up, man? How can I serve you, man?
It's wild how much they've been able to infiltrate the culture and get them to believe these lies that is really at their detriment. You say, I saw recently you got this white lady that yelled the N-word and they raised over $500,000 for it. And then you got the black guy that killed the white dude and he raised over $500,000. And you're sitting there thinking, if I was trying to cause a race war, I would probably fund these two humans.
That's it. This
you know
is
what
how
I
you would
mean?
do it.
It's
Yeah.
like I can watch it with my logical brain. I'm like, oh, this is going to cause so many problems again. And you see people getting all heated over it. And it's like, wait, you guys, like nobody believes that either of those things is okay, minus the people that have been sold this complete lie. But it starts to create these race wars again and division and all those things. Like how can even, like I start thinking about in my own situation, I would, be afraid to go into certain cities. I've been to the inner city of St. Louis and Detroit and some of these places, and I'll be honest, some pretty scary experiences, right? Scary. Yeah. I've been scared more times in the United States than I ever have traveling, and I've been to 114 countries.
Watch this. So in St. Louis, I'm glad you brought up, the most divided part of America is in St. Louis.
I believe
it's called the Del Mar Divide. There's a street called Del Mar, and one side is 80, I think it's like 90-some% Caucasian. On the other side is 90% black. And the only division is that street. If you Google it, you'll look up and it's called the Del Mar Divide.
Wow.
And you're like, how is it that you have people who are so successful on one side of the street, and then on the other side of the street, people are so limited? The only difference, because there's only a 2-lane street, the only difference is the belief system. Because they can go to the same school, they can do all those things, but there's a divide. And if someone tells me, James, you can't make it because of a white person, it's easier to believe in a boogeyman that will stop me, block me, that will keep me down, that I can't see. It's an invisible force. It's easy for me to say, you're right, I can't make it because of a white man. But when you told me I couldn't make it because of my leg, I had to fight back and prove you wrong, right? I think we have to put it back to the personal thing. It's like, man, no one is stopping you. There's not a white man waiting on you. There's not the only man that has ever limited James Dixon has been in the mirror by my own lack of character at times, my own challenges to overcome. I've never had it be racially that blocked me, but I've had people tell me that that's why I wouldn't make it. Go get disability, man. It's an easy way for you. You qualify. If I'd have taken disability, I would have accepted $18,000 a year for the rest of my life. I would have sit there, man, my whole life rots away. And then at the end of my life, I sit there and say, white man, stop me. No, man. Whatever man you choose to believe. Because there's an agenda behind everything. Man, I got invited to the White House. It's the 4th time I've been there this year.
You're like Forrest Gump, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm like just showing up. And I walked in on February 20th. That was the Black History Month, and they were celebrating that. And man, to see the volume of black people there. I'm talking about leaders, men, mostly men. And I'm looking at it, and these are black men that are masculine. These are purpose-driven, that have been successful, that overcame something. I'm talking about Marcellus Wiley is there with me. Harris Faulkner is there. Just different black people from all over there, and we're all there. And people say, well, they're sellouts, and been used in these phrases against us, calling you Uncle Tom. Do you realize that Uncle Tom is not an insult? Because Uncle Tom is the one who was the one helping the black people. It was Sambo who was the one betraying his people. And so the moment you call me an Uncle Tom, it lets me know that the gap between what you know and what I know is bigger than what we think.
Well, that's the hard part, right? Because as soon as guys from the black community start having this huge success and they start going, it's their own people that start to reject them and try to make that wrong. Meanwhile, they're propping up the next rapper that's singing about all sorts of bullshit. And so that's what I'm saying is like, it feels like such a daunting task. And that's why I'm so fascinated talking to you is like, because you're on the forefront of this, man, and you've taken on this responsibility of like, I do want to change the community. I want to change the culture around this because it is a mindset thing. The second you think that you're a victim, you might even be right. Maybe you were, treated differently or poorly or whatever else. But the second you think you're a victim, you're dead stuck. because you don't have the power to change it because you've given up your power to the person you're victim to.
Dude, this probably be a most viral moment, but most inappropriate thing to say that I'm going to say. I am not a descendant of slaves. I come from survivors. Everyone that I've come from is a survivor. They overcame something to become something. No one is a slave. That is to say that I'm a present tense held back by something. Man, I am a walking embodiment of my grandmother's prayers. Things that she never got to do, I get to do. Things that she prayed for, I get to be the answer to. And the idea that I would ever believe that I'm a slave is a lie. I come from survivors. When you look at the Jewish community, you don't hear them say, we are Holocaust people now. They're survivors. And when we group all white people together and not knowing that people come from Irish backgrounds and this background or Polish background, you don't know what people have been through to become them. Biggest mistake that we can make, I think, is to get to allow us to be divided by a color. And then the folks who are my color have called me a sellout. It was insulting because, man, I was broke. And I was broken. If I didn't have a grandmother who told me to look beyond my race, drop the race and add a G, right? Make it grace. It is by the grace of God you were chosen to be disabled. It is by the grace of God you get to be a man. And she would ask me, what am I raising? And I was like, you're raising me to be a man. And she said, what does a man do? I show up as a father. Man, those words became my mantra. I'm sitting in front of you, man, saying, we are the they. We need you. The fact that you don't see race, I know that. I know that there are guys, man, they are like, man, I'm here to serve. You travel the world. You see the world from a global view. And most of us are stuck somewhere looking at it from, this is my hood. But if I knew, I would see someone driving around in a Rolls Royce, and I'm like, man, that dude made it, not realizing that he just spent all this equity out, right? Yeah. And that if he had known to start a business, that could have been a way of setting that up so that that was a totally different way. And it's not race, it's knowledge, right? And so we have all these guys who make it, and you're like, man, he was in the NFL, he was this, that, and the other. Man, I was sitting there listening to the story from Warren Sapp and talking with Michael Vick yesterday, and those guys were all talking about wealth being gone. And then they were like, man, we need to get together and learn finances. So guys like Jeff Hoffman are there coaching. And it's not about race there. They're like, it's knowledge. And what you have to pass on is so great. I think we can transcend it, man. I think we get beyond talking about the race and we just do it. If we want to go into a black community and do it, if we put on, here's economic knowledge. We're going to teach you how to use AI. We're going to do such and such. We got the CEO of StockX. We got this guy here. We got Jimmy Rex coming, going to talk to you about real estate, but then also about manhood. If we did that, all of a sudden, we're not talking about race now. We're talking about knowledge, and there's there, and they leave out of there, and they're like, man, my boy, I just got to meet such and such, and it's a hero's welcome rather than here come these white folks. But if we go from a political thing, and I just went and spoke in Seattle, Washington, where only 3% of the population in Washington State is, that are there is Republican or even black, right? And they were asking me this question, like, James, how do we reach the black community, right? How do I say it? And I was like, you got to stop saying sentences like the blacks. What you do is you say, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, what I'm caring about is, are we working this thing together? Are we getting fathers in? Are we getting education up? I was like, make it inclusive of a statement so they can't isolate and separate you from that. And then the moment you start hearing them race bait you, see, you a white lady, da-da-da-da, and then they'll flip it around when it's convenient. Rachel Dolezal became black. Like, how do you trans black? You see, black isn't even an attitude or personality. Right. Black is a thing. I love my culture, man. I love different things. Like in the white culture, like Jimmy, if you went into a house and heard some ghostly sound that went like, get out, you'll go check it out. You know, you go grab your gun. Let me go see what that was. Black community, we hear that, we gone. That's it. Ghost got that house. That's the end of it. Nobody's coming back. Whatever's in there belong to him. I respect that. There are different cultural aspects, but we also have subcultures, but we have more in common than we have things that are divisive. When you speak about becoming a man, you speak to my heart. When you talk to a man about being vulnerable and transparent, you empower him to be a better father, better husband, better cousin. Yeah. I think the thing about race, we got to stop. And we just get in this race together.
Agreed. Yeah, I think there's so many people. That's what, it feels like it's such an easy thing to, like when we sit down, you and I, it's automatic, right? It's not going to be a part of it. And so transmuting that into a larger level. And, and I love some of the ideas that you have about like talking about going into those communities and some of that, and it's inspiring. And it's also like feels daunting, And so, yeah, it's one of the things that I think why you and I have connected so well.
I have reached, and my audience is 81% males. But you are a voice to men that has to get louder. Jimmy, I know how successful you are, and I know how God has used you mightily. But there's more. There are things that you have learned, man, that the time it would take me to catch up, I would be wrong. There was a conversation between Billy Graham and Martin Luther King. This happened in Greenville, South Carolina. Billy Graham got up to speak, and there was a sectioned off area for coloreds. Martin Luther King came there to watch Billy. Billy looks out, walks over, and grabs the cord and throws it away to undivide that line. They had a conversation. He said, man, how do we come together to do something? Billy asked that, and Martin said, I'll bring them from the street. You stand in the street, and we'll bring them together. Those two lions are gone, man. This generation doesn't need another Billy Graham. They need more Jimmy Rex. Because the men that still need to hear you won't even know about it. It's where we can take you. I got to find a way to get your voice heard by the men that hear mine, because you bring something totally different to the table.
No, I'd love that. Let's figure that out.
We will, because, man, we got to meet them in the street and bring them up, man. And I'm not just talking about the low income, man. There's more. There's that black kid who's been told he's awkward or weird because he reads books and all that. That kid, we have to find and reach all levels of men and build that relationship with them.
Yeah, I think one of the best, I heard this once years and years and years ago. I tried to develop this as part of to be a better coach and teacher in general. But your ability to reach people where they're at is your true sign of how good of a teacher you are. It's your true sign of intelligence, is being able to meet people where they're at. And I think that's something that, over the years I've been able to do pretty well is, meet people where they're at and try to bring them along the journey. And so, yeah, man, it's fascinating to think about, to talk about. And I appreciate the work that you're doing around it all, because it's so important, man. And it's, what a gift that you've been to the community in general, not just the black community, but people in general, to be able to share your story and have your voice and be able to bring people together, which is what you, I think, are best known for and what you do the best.
Man, thank you, brother. I'm going to tell you this. I have one big thing. It's a Bible track that's coming out. So I agreed to do a movie with Angel Studios, but I'm not going to tell it from the perspective, black kid, poor, injured, whatever. I'm going to tell the story beginning with legacy, my grandmother's story, and then the fulfillment of it and the need of becoming a man. When we get to the portion where we talk about becoming that better man, I'm going to ask you to come in and do something segment with me where we get to drop Easter eggs on people about that. Because they need to. Dude, I'm of this collaborative mindset, and I can't lift my people alone. But if you'll be there with me, if you'll spot me, I'll lift heavier. You just keep encouraging me like I'm doing with you, man.
Amen. I love it,
go.
man. You're inspiring. I can see why people like to follow you. For people that do want to watch more, see more of your stuff, where's the best place to send them, James?
You know what, man? If you would do me a favor and just subscribe to Absolute Motivation, watch the messages there, use it as a daily vitamin. But more importantly, keep following my friend Jimmy Rex, right? The more you spread my brother, the more encouragement, the more power that is there. Jimmy, thank you for being my friend, for being my brother, for being accountability, and giving me someone to strive to embody. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, man. And I could say the exact same thing. So appreciate you. Look forward to building more of our friendship and connection.
You got it, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you again for listening to the Jimmy Rex Show. And if you liked what you heard, please like and subscribe. It really helps me to get better guests, to be able to get the type of people on this podcast. It's going to make it the most interesting. Also, want to tell everybody about my podcast studio, The Rookery Studios, now available in Salt Lake City and Orem, Utah. If you live in Utah and want to produce your own podcast, we take all of the guesswork out of it for you. We make it so simple. All you do is you come in, you sit down, you talk, and leave. We record it, edit it, even post it for you. If interested in doing your own podcast, visit our Instagram and send us a DM, Rookery Studios, or go to our website, therookerystudios.com.